Shall we begin?
All right, we are live for another Create Your New Life real estate session brought to you by Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. These guys that are behind me. Always happy to be here. I know we've been gone for about a week, but we are back now, getting back in action and jumping right head first into this thing that we call real estate. Yes. So welcome. So we are, first of all, I want to say thank you for joining our session. Thank you to see a little bit about what we're all about here at Brooks and Davis. So whether you're looking at it live, whether you're getting some CE credit, whether you are looking at the recording on YouTube, we want to say thank you for checking us out. We're always looking to bring on talented individuals to be a part of our organization. This is a great way for us to engage and interact with individuals, and we're excited about that. We're really pushing momentum. We're trying to get to 100 agents and affiliates by the end of the year. Right now we're at 81. I just counted today, so we're at 81 agents and affiliates. So we're moving. And we have about 4 months till the year closes out for us to reach our goals. So I know we can do it. And by doing that, we would have doubled the number as we ended last year. So I'm extremely excited about that. So today, again, at any point, if you have questions, comments, things like that, we can get those answered. Right. I have the group chat open. So in the event that it won't let you unmute yourself, sometimes it does that. Go ahead and put your question in the group chat and we'll deal with it there. We can answer it there as well. There's my group chat. There you go. So there's my group chat. I can see it. All righty. So the title for today, you have the client. Now it's time to get to work. The hard part is done. So now the even harder part begins. So that's why we called it that that today. But matter of fact, before I get into it though, just so everybody's on the same page as far as how the CE credit works, I like showing this slide as we begin. The student must be logged in at the time the session begins. Student must show instructor the identification. So what we're going to start doing is I'm going to start looking at the identification prior to us recording. So that's why it's even more imperative that the student logs in before I begin. So your driver's license information isn't on YouTube. But student must show your identification, and I have to be able to see the student at all times and got to stay online the entire time to get your 1 hour CE credit. So real simple, real easy way to get your elective CE credit through the Brooks and Davis Continuing Education Institute, which is our providership that we just recently started. All right, so the title, you have the client. Now it's time to get to work. So we're going to begin our fifth skill set, which is we're going to begin with our fifth skill set, which is getting the client under contract as soon as possible, right? As fast as possible. So that's what we're going to be beginning that area of the Realtor Success Funnel today. It goes right into the quote that I have on the form, which is, the trouble is you think you have time, right? That is a quote from Buddha. The trouble is you think you have time. See, a lot of times when we've gone through all the other skill sets and we've gotten the client, we feel like, okay, now we can take our foot off the gas and we can relax, right? We run into a couple of challenges as far as if it's working with a buyer, getting an offer accepted, or working with a seller as far as marketing the property, and we lose that sense of urgency to continue to get the transaction moving forward. When the reality is that you should press harder on the gas pedal once you get the client. Because now it's time to go to work and get a contract. Remember, we don't get paid for getting clients. We don't get paid for getting broker representation agreement signed or client broker loyalty agreement signed. We don't get paid for getting listing agreement signed. You don't get checks for that stuff. You get checks when it closes. So you got to keep mentally focused on continuing to move down the funnel as soon as possible. So that's what this skill set is all about now, is getting the contract, getting your client under contract as soon as possible. So that's why we called it today. And we have the quote. Again, the trouble is you think you have time. And that's maybe why people do it, is because we think we have time when in reality, you don't. You know, I had a conversation today. My father called me about our first cousin passing away. You know, they was sick. They was battling cancer. But look, you don't have control over how you being born, of the date that you come into this world. You don't have control over that. You don't have control over the date that you leave this world, right? The only thing you can control is that dot that's in between those two dates, or that dash that's in between those two dates. So stop wasting time. Get out there and do something and live your best life and create this new life that we're always pushing and promoting. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into what we always talk about, or how we always start this thing off. See, what kind of production did Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm do since the last time we met? So let's check that out and see how we're doing. All right, so we're still over. The good thing is we're still over 4 million, right? We're still over 4 million, which is my comfort level, my comfort zone. But look, I know we can do better. I know we can do more. I know there are some contracts that are out there that's we don't know about. We need you guys to tell us when y'all get stuff under contract. Stop not telling us, right? We need to know. You know, I found out that one of you guys had closed on a deal. I looked at the HUD one on the desk. He closed on it on June 5th. And that was 2 months ago. And we never found out about it. So you guys have to tell us so we can include it in our numbers. We need to know how we're doing, how we're progressing. So right now we're at a little under $4.2 million on the board. All right. We do want to congratulate some new production. You know, John Stampley. There we go. John Stampley brought some new production in. Don Green, congratulations, guys, brought some new production in. But as far as our top 5, it remains the same. So nothing changed since the last time we met. You know, my favorite agent, working hard every day. You know, she's still maintaining that #1 spot, right? Followed by Mashana, and then Margaret, Kalima, and Charles Adams. So my fellas, come on, y'all need to step it up. We're being outnumbered over here by our female counterparts. So we got to get some more names on the list. All right, but look, congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, for maintaining your position another week. And let's keep pushing. Let's keep moving forward. Good job. Good job. Good job. All right, we have some new agents and affiliates, right? Like I said earlier, we're over 81 agents and affiliates. And, you know, we want to welcome some of our newest agents and affiliates. So we signed up Ms. Jordan Hamilton. She's a new agent. We definitely want to welcome her. And then Jordan came right on in and is now qualifying for the Realtor recruitment rally because she recruited Miss Kinsler Glasgow. The ink wasn't even dry on Jordan's paperwork. We hadn't even, matter of fact, the day that she coming in to do her orientation is the day that we met with Kinsler, and Kinsler decided to join us as well. So congratulations, Jordan, for jumping on in, getting that recruitment, getting that opportunity where you can get that override and that residual income. So we're definitely going to make note of that. But congratulations, Jordan, and welcome, as well as Kinsler. Now it's your turn, Kinsler. Now you got to recruit somebody, right? Because Jordan recruited you. So, but we definitely want to welcome Kinsler, and we want to welcome Gary Forbes. Welcome, Gary, to the team. Welcome to the family. So those are the new agents that have just signed on. Also, Miss Terica Whitfield and Sharon Nunn, they signed on as affiliates. So welcome, ladies. We're here to support you, get you to where you can get through those classes, get past that test, and go ahead and get licensed so we can position you to have the type of real estate business that you want to have. So so that's 5 new people that we want to welcome to our family and our team, and welcome to our organization. And again, look, we're working to get to over 100 by the end of the year, and we can definitely do that. We're definitely on pace for being able to do that. So let's do it, right? Let's do it. Let's get to 100 and hit another milestone and hit another mark. So, all right, welcome everybody, and we'll talking to you soon. All right, so the 60-day cycle is the next thing that we're going to run into real briefly. We should be at 2.6 million. We're at 1.9, so we're under the mark. Come on, people, what are you doing to me? Right? Let's go. That's like seven. That's like two houses. Let's get two $350,000 houses under contract this week, so we can go ahead and hit our goal of 5.3 million. You know, we chose this mantra of build your real estate machine because that's what we're talking about here in this Day in the Life series, how we've transitioned the Realtor Success Funnel, and you know how we've been spending time going through that. So we're really wanting to emphasize building the real estate machine and having success in this machine that you've built. So let's follow what we're teaching, especially today. Skill set number 5 should really help as far as the ones that have clients, that have people in the pipeline, getting them to the point to where we can hit our, come up with this $700,000 gap that we're missing, where we can close that gap up here over the next week. So let's keep working hard. Let's keep pushing it so we can get it done. We can get it done. I know you can get it done. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. All right. So new listing showcase. We have a new corporate listing that we want to highlight today. Now remember, the new listing showcase, what I do is I go to the MLS and I go to my office listings and I see what listings are in the MLS. And that's how I determine how we're doing the new listing showcase. So again, if you have a listing, let's go ahead and hurry up and get it in the MLS so I can see it. And then we could do a new listing showcase for you with the Create Your New Life. These things, they go on our YouTube page. So people are coming. We're constantly pushing our YouTube channel. So people are able, so it's an added avenue of marketing and exposure for your listing, something that you can talk to your clients about that can help, put them in a stronger position to get the property sold. One more thing. So today's listing showcase it's a corporate listing. It's a listing kind of in West Houston, 15715 Sandusfield Lane. So we did do a video, an area video of the property. I was out there on a Saturday, had my tank top on, my shades on, because we was chilling. We was chilling on that Saturday. But what we'll do is we'll start with the video, and then we'll come back kind of talking about the property itself. Let me turn up my speakers so you can hear it. All right, let's go with it.
Hey everybody, so I'm visiting one of our properties here on Sandusfield, right? And on the way to check it out, like to check out the area, ran across this sign for the exclusive use of first-year resident park home. This sign is talking about some amenities that are in walking distance to the house. It's like a park, a pool, tennis courts, that for the exclusive use of Berkshire residents being able to use those amenities. So what that means is that for a person that purchases this home, they're able to get the exclusive use of the amenities that are here at this park. And again, it's in walking distance to the home. Pool, tennis court, and a playground.
All right. So excellent job, Jessica. Well, I tell you that's our production specialist right there that puts together all our videos. But yeah, so that's 15715 Sandersfield. The perfect buyer is, I mean, obviously it's a family that has kids that could capitalize on the use of those amenities. Like I said on the video, it's in walking distance of the. Let's look at it here. They're in walking distance. Boom. All right, it's in walking distance of the of all of those amenities, right? Right off of Highway 6. And you know, Highway 6, it's off of Highway 6 in between 290 and I-10. And that stretch of Highway 6 has everything that you need, like anything you need, restaurants, grocery, recreational things, arcades, retail centers, like whatever you need is on Highway 6 in that stretch. So you'll never have to be worried about having to drive into the city or do anything. But if you do need to drive into the city, look, you have access to 290 right there. 290 is like only 4 miles away from the property. You have access to, and then you got 1960 is right there on the other side of 290. So if you don't find everything that you need on Highway 6, you just go 4 miles up, go 4 miles north, and you can find what you need to find on FM 1960. So, I mean, it's just the location of this is phenomenal. The location is phenomenal. So, you know, we are offering owner finance. We are offering lease option. So both of those are available for these homes. If you have a client that needs to capitalize on one of those options, look, let's talk about it, right? So that's another ideal client. Like if somebody that is not in a position to get traditional financing, well, we have other options for them that you can clearly see here. Let's look at some of the pictures of the property. Let's see, it's thinking. Maybe HAR. Maybe HAR is not going to let us look at none of the pictures of the property. Maybe it'll do it here. Nope. So unfortunately, you can't look at any pictures of the property. But guess what? You can go on HAR and you can put in the address and you can put in the MLS number, and then you will be able to look at the pictures. I guess YouTube and HAR, they're not on good terms right now. So yeah, so here's the address, 15715 Sandersfield, Sandersfield Lane. The MLS number is 8634-8694, 2,700 square foot house, built in 2006, 4-bedroom, 2.5 baths. So it has more than enough space for the perfect family to come in here. It's light and bright, open spaces. The neighborhood is phenomenal. I mean, it's well manicured. The lawns, it has a lot of character. So it definitely is not one of those neighborhoods where all the houses, every other house looks the same, has the same elevation. These houses, the bricks are different, the elevation is different, the lawns are different. So there's a lot of character in the subdivision as well. So it's a host of things about this community that that can be said about it. So look, if you bring your buyers, let's talk through it. Let's get them in. If we got to access the owner finance options and things like that, hey, let's do it. Let us do it. All right. So now let's jump into what makes Brooks and Davis special, right? What makes us special? Our proprietary program, and that's what makes us special. So every time we do our Create Your New Life, I always want to present these options or these things that we do. One that we're about to add one on here, which is something that I want to talk about now, and I'm offering to you know, as brand new agents come on, we're going to start implementing it. But if you've already been with us for a while and you've never done it, we can do it. And it's called our GAT meeting, right? So it's one more thing that we're going to add to this list of proprietary programming is the Brooks and Davis GAT meeting. So when a agent when an agent signs up for Brooks and Davis, you know, the way it works or the system is that they come in, they do their paperwork. Then after they do their paperwork, we set up orientation. So, and most of you all have gone through that orientation process with Jess, and she kind of goes through, get you assimilated with what we have access to, talks about the proprietary program, and make sure we get you connected into everything. Well, what we're going to start doing now is that after orientation, we're going to do a gap meeting, which is a sit down with me for about an hour. And we're going to kind of walk through, you know, the Realtor Success Funnel, so you can get a kind of an overview of what we're looking to eventually build in your real estate business. And then after that, we're going to talk specifically about what you need to be working on right now to get you on track. Thus the name GAT meeting, because GAT is spelled capital G, lowercase y, capital A, capital T, right? And excuse my French, but it stands for get your ass on track. It's our get your ass on track meeting, right? That is our goal, is to get you on track and to get you on track as soon as possible. And that's why we've designed a lot of the things that we've designed, a lot of the concept that we've designed is to take brand new people or to take agents and get them in a position to where they're on track to ultimately be successful in this business. So our new GAP meeting, if you're interested in doing one of those with me, just call the office. Let's get on the calendar and we can get it set up. We've already implemented it into our new agent process. So new agents are going to get it automatically. But if you've never gotten it in the past and you're interested, let's go ahead and get it set up, get signed up, and we can go ahead and move forward with that. One more thing to add to our list or our menu of services that gives us our competitive edge over other companies. So it's our GAT meeting. So, all right, let us move on to the next thing, which is our happy hour. Look, you didn't come to the happy hour yesterday. You missing out. I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't come learn, meet a vendor partner. You know, you guys out there looking for inspectors. Y'all don't know who to call to do an inspection on your house. So why not come meet one, right? And you put that in your tool belt. Then you get you some free food. You get you some free margaritas. And you know what I'm saying? You hang out, right? It is a gift to you for the hard work that you do and being a part of Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. So you guys need to come. You need to hang out. So guess what? We did a video just so y'all could see what you missed out on, and you be jealous. So the next time you'll come and stop playing around. All right, let's go. So yeah, look. So we had a great time yesterday at Escalante's. You know, now we did have, you know, so we had about maybe 15 people, you know, in and out. So some were there the whole time, and then some came and said hello and goodbye, ate some food, and they bounced out. But the point is that, look, we got 81 people that's a part of our organization. Y'all don't know each other, you know. Y'all may be passing each other in the street and not realizing y'all are with the same brokerage firm, that y'all are family. So we want to put these events and we want you all to come out so you can see who's who and who's started. Like at these Create Your New Lives, I'm naming names and we're welcoming people, and y'all are seeing people's names on the group me, but you're not knowing who they are. It's good to put a face with the name. So we're going to continue to do these things, continue to have events, continue to submit the invites to you, and we want you to take advantage of it, and we want you all to come out. You know, as we make phone calls this last go round, we started realizing some of the inadequacies when it comes to how we are communicating, whether that's email or whether that's GroupMe. So we're going to be trying some other ways to get engagement to ensure that, look, nobody's left behind as far as knowing what's going on in your brokerage firm. So we're going to do a better job of that as well. So again, come to the events, come hang out, come talk about it. Let's talk about some things. Talk about some of your issues, your challenges, and we'll get through this thing together. Get through it together. All right. Last thing, moment in core before we get into our topic for today. One of our ideologies that I want to talk about today is always giving our best and every day making our best better. Now, I think this is very key when it comes to skill set number 5, getting this client under contract as soon as possible, is because you should always be constantly looking for the best way to operate to ensure that you're moving swiftly through that portion of the success funnel. So now skill set number 5 is where we're starting to really get down to having to increase your skill set, right? See, this is not an area of quantity or activity. This is an area of quality, right? Once you start transitioning into skill set 4 and skill set 5, that's when you got to start transitioning from more activity thinking, volume, doing it a lot of, to now really assessing how good am I at this particular part? How good am I at the presentation and the conversion face to face? How good am I at, once I get the client, helping them with the questions that they may have, helping them traverse through the process of getting to a point to where they're under contract. That's where the skill really needs to increase as we get to these last 3 skill sets, 4, 5, and 6. So with that being said, when we're talking about, continually learning, improving, and operating in the most productive manner, when we're talking about giving our best and every day making our best better, which again is about improving, this is why it's important that we do these 2 values that are part of our ideology, because the skill, having more skilled in this area of the funnel, is imperative. So now we're going to really get into getting highly skilled in those areas of the realtor success funnel. All right. So now we're jumping into skill set number 5. All right. Skill set number 5 again is after you've gotten a client, right? And now you're taking that client and you're moving as fast as possible to get them to a point of making a decision and getting under contract. So now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying at this point you're pushing the client through at an uncomfortable pace. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is you're intentional about the pace continuing to move, because what'll happen is that the clients they'll get tired. One of the biggest examples that I want to utilize is that you have to manage your clients' expectations when it comes to their offers not getting accepted, right? The national ratio is 3-to-1, meaning that you have to submit at least 3 offers before you get one accepted. That's the national ratio. Now, there are some cases where people have had to submit up to 10 offers before they got one accepted. You, as a buyer, you're working with your buyer client, you have to prepare your client, manage that expectation. Because if you don't, and then y'all are submitting offers and they're not getting accepted, then what's going to happen is that client is going to get frustrated. That client is going to get tired mentally. They're going to get drained. So, and when that happens, they're going to blame you. They're going to think it's your inadequacies, that you're the reason that it's not getting accepted. So it's very important that you manage their expectations at this portion of it, yet you have to maintain control on how you flow through this area of the funnel. All right. Now, we always start with this, right? Everything that I do, everything that we coach, everything that we train on is about this. This is it. The goal of this was to take the complexities of this business and put it in a simple manner that we could regurgitate the information in such a way that people could consume it, our agents could consume it, execute it, and be successful in this business. So that's what it all starts here, right? It starts with the blue triangle. You got to have the foundation first. so you can even build what we're trying to get you to build or coax you to build. We talked about the blue square being the tools. We talked about that being the basic necessities. Look, membership in HAR, you got to have access to the MLS. You got to pay for that. Having a super key, you got to get that, right? You got to get these things, these fundamentals, CRM. You got to get a smartphone, laptop. You got to get these things. If you're going to be able to successfully build this business, you got to have the right tools and resources. All right. Now we've gone through skill set number 1, which talks about generating leads, and more leads. We've gone through skill set number 2 about making contact with your leads and consistent follow-up. And remember, those 2 skill sets, it's all about activity, right? That's why it's a lot of green. That's what the green represents. It represents activity. So at the top of the funnel, there's a lot of activity. So that's where you got to make sure you're putting in the work. You got to make sure you're putting in the time when it comes to generating leads and following up on leads, the first 2. And then skill set number 3, successfully scheduling the consultation. That's where skill set and time kind of comes together, right? Because now that's where you use your scripts. That's where you use your, building rapport, your pre-qualification questions. That's where all that stuff starts kicking in to get conversion, right? Because now you're trying to convert from the phone call to the appointment, right? So conversion starts with skill set. That's where your skill set needs to increase, right? Then we go from skill set number 4, which is ensuring you leave the consultation with the client. So that's your second conversion. First conversion is getting them to agree to have a meeting with you. Second conversion is getting them to hire you at the meeting, right? So that's where you have to have even more skill. That's where you have to practice. This is where practice comes in. Practicing your scripts, practicing your presentation techniques, practicing objection handling. Like that's where all of this comes in. That's where the skill really needs to increase. But then now today, we're going into getting the client under contract as soon as possible, which is the 5th skill set. So see, look, we're working our way down the funnel. We're looking at each skill set. And remember, it isn't a matter of you being good at 1 or 2 or 3 or even 5 of these skill sets. You have got to become good at all 6 of these skill sets. You have to become proficient in all 6 of these key areas that are in the funnel if you're going to have a sustainable business that's going to continue to grow year after year after year after year. If you're going to create that kind of business and that kind of machine, then it's imperative that you become skilled in these areas, proficient in these topics, and that they are all operating in tandem, meaning at the same time. As you're flowing and feeding this machine, all of these gears have to be moving, and this is what your pipeline eventually looks like. So what'll happen is you'll have some people, you'll have a group that's the leads, new groups, new leads coming in. You'll have a group that's in your follow-up protocol. You'll have a group that you're meeting with. You have a group that are already clients. You'll have a group that are of clients that are already under contract and are about to close. So that's where you'll have people spiraling through all the way through this funnel at all times. That's what a business, a real estate business, and how it needs to look. All right, so let's jump into the skill set number 5, right? So now remember, this series is about the day in the life of a realtor. So it's about me taking that concept, which I just showed you, the Realtor Success Funnel, taking that concept and then presenting it from a practical standpoint of what it looks like in any particular day, right? So in any particular day, how do I take the things that we're talking about and presenting in this funnel? How do I take those things and execute them on a daily basis? All right. So now, the first thing, which is very key, which is a part of, it's a part of the blue square, right? Which is why I say you can't build this properly without the blue square, is the time block. You got to have the time block in place, because now that you have a client and you have a system, you have to make time to do what we call is onboarding the new client. Like you have to add the client into your business, and there needs to be an intentional process for doing that. Well, guess what? If you don't have a time block, then you haven't been intentional about blocking out the time to do this aspect of it. Also, if you haven't gotten a CRM, then you don't have anywhere to put the new client and identify them as a client. Because see, they're no longer a customer. They're no longer a lead. They're no longer a prospect. They are a client. Therefore, they need to go somewhere else other than where you have everybody else that's not a client. So that's why you have to have the blue square. You have to have your CRM. You have to have your time block ready to go. All right, so now look. In the agenda, which is what I've been doing, I've already done videos, so I'm not going to go into like too much. Like these videos give major detail when it comes to after you got a client, right? So it talks about the onboarding process. It talks about, you know, showing them how we're putting them in the Wise Agent. It talks about the forms. So these videos talk about all of those aspects. So for buyer clients, these videos show it. For seller clients, let me see it right here. Make it a little bigger for you. All right, so these videos for buyer clients. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, it's time to pick a house. And all of these are in the Create Your New Life folder. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, it's time to pick a house, session 1 and session 2. For sellers, it's about 7 videos. You know, we got a new seller client, part 1 and part 2. Got to get the property on HER.com quickly. Got to get the part 1 and part 2. And then, whoo, it's on the MLS now. So those videos give detailed insight. And then for tenant clients, do you feel like tenants are a waste of time? They give you deep insight on this area of the success funnel, skill set number 5, for that particular client type. Okay, these videos give that. All right, so onboarding the new client. Like I said, you have to have your CRM in place so you're intentional about or that you have somewhere to put them, and then you have to have your time block in place so that you are intentional with that particular time span to make sure that you do it, right? So now, now when I was doing it, 9 to 12 was lead generation time, right? Then I would have my meeting times. My first meeting appointment would be 12:30. Well, in addition, what I had to do was that I had to identify administration time in my calendar. Now, there were many iterations of what this looked like in the operation of my business, right? At one point, I would just do it in the evening. So after 5 o'clock, you know, say from 5 to 7 is when I would do this kind of stuff, like onboarding new clients, adding them to the CRM, you know, doing the creating the property folders for them. Like I would do all of that in the evening time to help me remain organized, right? And then as business started really picking up, that wasn't enough time. So I would actually have to devote a whole day. So on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesdays, I wouldn't do any showings. I wouldn't do any meetings. That day was only for, I would still do lead generation from 9 to 12:30, to 12. And then after that, for the rest of the day, it was all about administration stuff, right? Well, then when that started becoming too much, because again, business is growing, things are increasing, that's when I had to hire my first assistant. So you see how it transitioned? It started first with the time block, and then you just identify time in your schedule on when you're going to do these administrative type of tasks. And then as business continues to pick up, then you may get to a point to where you have to devote an entire day, right? Well, then as business continues to pick up, because business is picking up and you're doing right by the money and the revenue that you're generating, then it's time for you to make your first hire to help take those administration tasks off of your belt, off of your table, and then you start handing it over to them. So there's a plan, there's a process on how to work this business and how to build it. See, you got to keep in your mind, it's all about building it. That's why we say building a machine. You got to build it, and it has to progress a particular way for it to offer sustainability, right? So the time block is important. The CRM is important, right? Because a portion of, and like I said, when you look at these other processes, right, a portion of the those videos and the processes have to do with onboarding the client and the forms and how to and kind of how to do that. So let's look a little bit about onboarding the new. Let's kind of talk through that, because it's very, if you're ever going to be able to handle any kind of scale, that's why you got to time block it in your day. If you're gonna be able to handle any kind of scale, then you have to be organized in how you work your clients, right? If you want to go from 1 client to 10 clients, then you have to handle them as if it's like a factory, like a conveyor belt. So there are some consistencies that need to take place on how you work with your clients. So that's why you got to be organized, and the onboarding process is key. All right, so now let's look at your 7-dot training folder, because inside of your 7-dot training folder, we have inside of your 7-dot training folder, we have process for working with tenants, process for working with apartments, process for working with buyers, process for working with sellers. So there's a folder inside of your 7-dot trainer that, you know, can be a supplement to what we're talking about here with this video and the videos that are on the agenda for today. Matter of fact, that's where we got those videos from. The reason that I want to go here, though, is because inside of there's a folder that says, inside of your process for working with buyers, there's a folder that says onboarding the new buyer. So when it comes to these 2 folders, these 2 folders have to do with skill set number 5, getting the client under contract as soon as possible. The number 3 folder in your process for working with buyers, onboarding the new buyer, and the number 4 folder, servicing the buyer client. All right. So let's start with onboarding a new buyer. And it's going to be similar, you know, for the seller. Well, we have a folder in there that speaks to how the corporate team adds a new buyer into our process. Now, in those videos that I told you about, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, It's Time to Pick a House, part 1 and part 2, I go in detail through these forms, right? So that's why I'm not going to do it now. But I want you to know where to go to get them, so you can see how to properly onboard a client into your system. Now, some of the things that, when I say onboard, the things that I'm talking about are this. You know, when we start talking about servicing the client, which we'll probably start talking about that next time we meet. When we're dealing with servicing the client, whether a buyer or whether a seller, then you want to have like a checklist, right? So if you have a checklist, that means for every new client, there has to be a process for getting that checklist, right? You want to create a property folder, right? Something so when you're getting forms and things like that, you can put it in that folder. And then on top of your checklist, you can stay on track on, okay, this is what I need to work on today. All right. All of that is a part of servicing. But before you can get to servicing the client, you have to have a process to where these items are created, to where the property folder is created, to where the digital folder is created, to where the buyer's folder is created, to where maybe they've signed your paperwork, but you haven't sent them copies of what they signed. So there has to be a process to where you're sending them copies of the documents they signed. You want to send them a thank you card, thanking them for meeting with you. Well, there has to be a process that's a part of your onboarding process and bringing on a new client. So ultimately, the onboarding process, all it is a matter of what are those steps that you're doing now that you have a new client. That's going to be consistent and the same for every single new client that you introduce into your real estate machine. Those same things. Look, you want to follow them on social media. So now you go on Facebook and you add them as a friend. You add them, you know, follow them on, maybe they're on LinkedIn, maybe they're on Twitter. So that in your onboarding process, You can make that a part of your process to go and connect with them on social media. You can make it a part of your process to where you add them into your Wise agent, and if they're already in your Wise agent, you move them into its own category that says maybe current leads, right? That's a part of your process, right? You want to, it's a host of things that you could add into your process. So what you want to do is read our process that talks about how we do it, right? And it talks about it from a standpoint of how we do it. Both of these, the reason there's two processes because one is with our virtual assistants that handles the digital aspects of onboarding the client, and then one is the process for what the corporate team does in-house in onboarding a new client. For instance, if we have a new seller client, adding them to the listing board, that's a part of the process. So it talks about the stuff that we do in office. So read those two, and then think of some things that you want to add. You can add to it if you want, right? So you don't have to do everything that's in ours, because remember, it came over time. But you also don't only have to do the things that we talk about. There may be something else that you want to add that you found out about, and you want to add that to your process. The key is it has to be create a process, create a system. At this area of the Realtor Success Funnel, as we're talking about skill, that's a part of the skill, which is having a process, having some kind of system in place, because that will allow you to scale it up, right? So here, going from here to client, is very important that you have a process, that you have a system, so you can go from being able to only work with one client because you don't have enough time in the day to being able to work with 5 clients, 6 clients, 10 clients, right? Without it requiring more time, because your system is efficient and it is organized. And see, another thing is that before you can bring in an assistant or bring in a team member, if you don't have a system in place, then when you bring them in, you're not handing them anything to do. And then now you just have another mouth to feed, but you're not putting them in the best position to help your business continue to grow. So the way it looks is that you create the systems, you operate by the systems. These systems allow you to be more efficient. And then once you get too much business because you're about as efficient as you can be with your system, then you hire somebody, and then now you're hiring them to just manage the same systems that you've already been managed, right? That's how it's got to look. So it's very important that you create the systems, the processes, the checklists, that you create those first, the operating procedure. You got to create those first before you hire somebody. And this is the area of the funnel where all of that stuff starts taking place, beginning at skill set number 5. For you to get that client under contract as soon as possible, you got to have systems and process, because if not, you're not going to remember to keep pushing the file forward. So you got to do those things. All right. Now, as we talk about onboarding the new client, what we're also going to talk about next is prioritizing your activities, right? So in prioritizing, when I say prioritizing your activities, now that you have a client, there are certain things that push you towards the ultimate goal, which is getting them under contract. There are certain activities that you need to be doing, and you again have to remember your time block, be intentional about it. So what are some of these activities? If you're working with a buyer, well, you have to take them out and look at properties, right? So showing properties is what needs to be done. You sitting there in front of the MLS searching for properties can become a time waster. You sitting there looking for properties and then emailing those properties to your client can be a time waster. You sitting there looking for properties and creating a website that's going to notify your client every time something new in an area pops up is a time waster, right? You got to get your client in the car. What you need to do is based on your buyer questionnaire, they fill out the buyer questionnaire. During your initial buyer consultation, you've sat and you've diagnosed what their need is, what's important to them. You found out that one or two things that, look, we got to have this. And if we don't have this, it's a deal breaker. You've identified that. What you do is now you take that and like the other stuff, areas and, you know, bedroom size and square footage and all that other stuff. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's very imperative that you know that one or two thing that is the deal breaker, because that thing right there is the thing that makes them make a decision, right? If they want to be in a certain area because of the schools and they want their kids to go to these schools right here, then understand it's not about, you know, even if they talk to you about bedrooms and square footage and lot size and all that other stuff, it's not about that. It's about making sure you find something that that's good enough for them in the area that's zoned to that school, because that's what's more important. That's the decision maker. So when you're looking at, when you're doing your search for properties, you got to be looking at it from a standpoint of, this is what's most important. So I base my search and everything around that. That's number one. Number two, stop sending them the properties beforehand. Call them and say, hey, look, when are you available to go look at properties? Then they're going to say, we're available on Saturday. All right, let's set some time on Saturday at 2 o'clock. We're going to go look at properties. I'm going to have about 5 properties for us to take a look at. If they say, well, can you send them to me ahead of time? They say, look, you guys can go on HAR and y'all can search all the properties that y'all want, right? The properties that I pull up, you know, we're going to go look at them. I'm going to do some analysis. I'm going to have detailed analysis and things around these properties. So, you know, you guys would rather me spend my time doing that than sending them to you, because you looking at them at the pictures is not going to be enough for you to determine if this is a house that you want or not, right? We need to drive to it. You guys need to see us riding through the neighborhood, getting to the house. When we pull up, you know, you need to see walking to the house and walking in the house. So since I know all of that, it really is no point for me to send you the houses ahead of time, right? It's just not going to help you with anything. So if you just want to look at houses, look, you got HAR, you probably already been doing that. So come Saturday, I'm going to have about 5 properties. We're going to go check these properties out. And trust me, I'm taking everything that you've told me, that we've talked about. I'm taking all that information for me to determine the best 5 houses based off of the information that you've given me. And we're going to go see those houses on Saturday, right? If you explain it to the client that way, if you talk to the client that way, you're not going to have any problems about them having you send them properties. That's what I mean when I say you have to prioritize your activities. You emailing properties is a low priority activity, right? You searching for properties is a low priority activity. So don't spend hours looking for properties. If you've done your part and paid attention to your client and you would have identified what's important to them, it's not going to take you long to find the 5 best properties to go show them on that day. So it's got to go from new client, onboarded, and I'm talking about buyers, new client, onboarded client, scheduling a property showing. It's got it. That's it. New client, onboarded, they've been onboarded, scheduling a time to go look at properties, period. Because it shouldn't be talking to the lender because they're already pre-approved, because if they're not pre-approved, you shouldn't even be having a meeting with them, right? It shouldn't be, like I said, showing a property, setting up a website. It shouldn't be none of that stuff. It should be their client. You've onboarded them through the process. You've scheduled a property showing for them. You've done the search. And the date, and then after you've scheduled the property showing, we've gone on the property showing. And as we've gone on the property showing, we've taken our contracts and all that stuff. They sign it and we submitting the contract offer, right? It should be just like that. Concrete, cookie cutter, no deviations. Why? Because we're trying to get the client under contract as possible. So get rid of all the filler. Get rid of all the fluff that's in between the areas. Go straight through those areas And that's what's going to help you be able to, because listen, again, if you're talking about scaling, if you're talking about going from working with 1 client to 5 clients to 10 clients, if you're talking about that, then you're not going to have time. We don't get extra time. Like, God's not going to give you, okay, well, now that Mike, instead of working with 1 client at a time, he works with 5 clients. Instead of him having 24 hours a day, I'm going to give him 27 hours a day. Like, that doesn't work like that. You only got the same 24 hours to get stuff done. So that means you have to operate better. So that's why it's important that you're real lean on skill set number 5. It's all about being effective. It's all about being lean and intentional and prioritizing the things that you're doing, the activities that you're doing. You got to be very concrete on the things that you are and are not doing, right? When it comes to this part right here. So that's, again, why it's very important that you remember your time block. All right. So now we're going to continue our conversation next time with this skill set number 5, because now we're going to start talking about what does it look like when it comes to servicing the client. The biggest issue is you got to use your forms. Use the forms. We've given you the forms already. The forms, the checklist, those things when going to a seller's home and doing an initial characteristic appointment, which is where you go get the signage and you'll put the sign out, go put the lockbox out, go get the room dimensions and all that stuff. It's very important that you use those forms. The property description questionnaire, the property description supplement. It's important that you use the forms, because the forms is what helps you make sure that you're being uniform with all your clients. It prevents you from having to think, oh, did I get the right sign? Do I got the lockbox? It report. The whole reason I created these forms, because what would happen is that I would do things and forget, like, go to a property, get the room dimensions, take pictures, put the sign out. When I get to the property, realize, oh man, I didn't bring the lockbox, right? Or go to the property, do everything, leave the property, and then realize, oh man, I didn't get the room dimensions for all of the rooms, right? See, the checklist prevent that from happening. So it prevents you from being for unnecessary making mistakes. Ultimately, prevents you from making mistakes. Why? Because when you do something like that, then now you got to wait. Now you got to double back, right? It becomes counterproductive. So next time we're going to be talking about the forms, right? And how to best use the forms, right? And continuing to remind you about the time block, right? And becoming more skilled in this particular skill set number 5. All right. So now look, I'm going to end it with this. Last time I talked to y'all about this book, Never Split the Difference, right? Life-changing book. I highly encourage you to go get the book or to listen to it on YouTube. You can listen to the book on YouTube. So look, it is no excuse about not listening to the book. So since we've listened to the book, right, we, just found some cheat sheet for us that we can utilize in our negotiations. We've used the techniques and the things that we've learned from this book, I would say about 3 times, right? And when I tell you, it is what he's saying in this book works, okay? It works. I had a major negotiation yesterday, right? It was about a deal, and it got pushed back. And again, we're talking about conflict resolution. So this is one of those ways of dealing with conflict. We got the call we were supposed to close yesterday, and we got the call the day before that we wasn't closing. The seller was livid, pissed off, right? The buyer just felt like the seller should wait, like it should be all good. Well, that wasn't going to work. Now, I'm gonna be candid with you. In the past, I would have been like them. I'd have been like, you know what? Let me just talk to my seller, get them to understand the scenario and the situation. We just gonna close on Monday. But guess what? And it's even happened in the past. Even if I'm effective in doing it, because the reality of it is the seller's not gonna not do the deal because they gotta wait a couple of days. But you don't want your client to have a bad taste in their mouth when the deal is over. So the buyer's agent doesn't care about that. The buyer doesn't care about that. The broker doesn't care about that. But I care about that because that's my client. So I don't want them to have a bad taste in their mouth when this deal is over with. So we got to figure out a way to make them feel okay about it. So because of that, we had to get the buyer to contribute something, right? Some peace offering, some sign of good faith that, number one, somebody was caring about the seller. Because the reason the seller was livid, it wasn't because we had to push the close date back. The seller was livid because nobody was taking them into, because ultimately it was nobody was taking them into consideration of all of this stuff taking place. Now, when I talk about skill, that's a skill, because as a professional, you have to be able to read between the lines. You got to read between the lines. At the end of the day, every move is an emotional move. Every move is about feelings and people feeling a certain way. So you got to adjust that. So to make a long story short, I use the things that we talked about in this book, and I use the things from the cheat sheet to now, and it went through stages. It wasn't easy, right? It went through stages from the buyer, doing all kind of crazy stuff, calling the seller greedy, not going to give a dime. They going to walk away from the deal. They not going to do it. We're not giving them nothing, to, having to talk to he brought the broker into it, the agent into it. Like I'm negotiating with, at one point, I'm negotiating with 2 different people, right? To finally, and we're talking about over a span of hours, right? It didn't just wasn't in one conversation. We're talking about over a span of multiple phone calls, text messages, emails, right? But at the end of the day, based on the things that we learned in that book, the seller was good with just getting $100. They just wanted the option money, which was $100. We ended up being able to go from, we ain't giving them nothing, they're greedy, we're not paying a penny, all of that, to getting $250 to be given to the seller. Right? They even tried to say, well, we'll just add extra earnest money. No, the seller wants some consideration for the fact that y'all didn't push the close date back, and it's not on the date that's in the contract. Well, I would have never been able to do that. I would have never been able to accomplish that without reading that book, listening to it on YouTube, and then studying it when it came to it being on the cheat sheet thing that Jess got for us. So if you're interested in the cheat sheet, we can make a copy of it for you. Jess can let you know where it is online, where she found it at. I highly encourage you to listen to it, study that book, listen to it, internalize those techniques, because I promise you I'd have never been able to do it. It was many times where my emotions was getting revved up, and the guy talks about it in the book, and without checking the emotions during the negotiation, I'd have killed it. But I was, it speaks about how to maintain it, recognizing your own emotions as you're going through it, so you can better facilitate to get the result that you're looking to get in a negotiation. I highly encourage you to get that book, Never Split the Difference, by Chris Voss. Listen to it on YouTube and utilize the techniques that it talks about, because they do work. They do work. All right, that's it for today. Jess, Ronnie, you guys got any questions, any comments?
You better believe I got some questions.
All right, let's talk. Let's go, Ronnie. What you got?
You were talking about it's important to use the forms so that we stay on point.
Yeah.
Where are those forms?
Well, everything's in 7-Dot Training. And what I'm going to do is the next Create Your New Life, the part 2 of this one is where we're going to be showing the forms. But I want to show you the forms, and I also want to show you kind of why the forms are important in keeping your client on track. And even
myself.
Yeah, and keeping yourself on track as well. So the forms is all about being it's really all organizational tools. So it's one less thing you have to think about. One less thing you have to think about, so you can spend your energy, your mental energies, on servicing the client. If that makes sense.
Okay. When you were talking about CRM, Trello would be considered one of the CRM programs, yes?
No. So Trello is just a transaction management system. So
Okay, I always get them confused. Transaction management system.
So Trello allows us to manage the transaction or manage the project. So Trello is not really, it's not a real estate software. It's really a project management software when you're trying to collaborate between parties. We just utilize it for that to help manage our listings. But now, you know, since Jess has been here, we're using it for all kinds of things. We're using it for the lead generation thing, for the investors, for the buyers. Yeah, so that's really what Trello is about. Now, Wise Agent is a true CRM. And inside of Wise Agent, it has, in most CRMs, they have a transaction management component. It's just not something that we use it. We don't use it, Wise Agent, like that. And I'm different because before I got Wise Agent, I created different systems, right? But if I was a brand new agent, you could take Wise Agent and you could build out your whole business through Wise Agent. I just did it. I kind of did it backwards. Like I built these other things, built these other checklists, and then added a CRM to it. So I did it like backwards. That makes sense?
Okay. It seems like I need to become more familiar on how to use Wise Agent. Because for me, I'm picking up Trello a lot easier than Wise Agent. And I could see how Trello could work with me throughout the whole process.
Well, it'll be challenging. Trello will be challenging because you can't create a bucket of names, right? So like if you go out and you generate, say you go out and for 30 days, you've been networking, you've been making phone calls. And so now you've generated 30 leads or 30, we'll say 30 contacts. You got 30 people's phone numbers. All right. Well, some of those people are going to be leads. Some of those people are going to be possible referral partners in the future. Some of those people are going to be, you know, clients. You'll be able to turn those into clients. So they're going to be different categories of people. Where Trello doesn't really have a function to where you could put them all in one bucket and give them different tags or different categories, and then effectively search through Trello when you I just want all the clients, or I just want all the referral partners. Like Trello doesn't have that functionality. Now, what it does allow you to manage the transaction, but Wise Agent has that. So Wise Agent has what Trello has, but Trello doesn't have what Wise Agent has. And you need
Okay. And then I just wanted to comment on how your last statements where you were saying that your client was really affected by moving the close date. And it's true, you know, everybody's made it seem like it's so easy. But then when you were showing that, okay, well, give us some consideration since it's so easy, all of a sudden it didn't become that easy. All of a sudden, and you know, you could have combated that. Well, if it's not that easy to give the consideration, then we should just simply close on the close date. And it's like, oh, no, we can't. Well, obviously, if you can't close, you have to recognize that on our end, you know, you're making us struggle as well. So it was very interesting how quickly the buyer got flustered and got angry because now all of a sudden he has to give up something, you know. And I like that. That was good.
And you know, the interesting thing about it, I was actually telling LaQuanta this yesterday, is that by negotiating for the seller the way that I had to negotiate and hearing their responses and their reasons on why they felt like it was okay just to push it back, it was forcing me to look at it to truly look at it from the standpoint of the seller, which I can honestly say up until that point, I never really empathized from that standpoint because I was just like them. I'm like, well, it's just 3 days. Like, what's the big deal? And I never really empathized from a standpoint of, but we promised the seller we were closing tomorrow. On the contract, it says we're closing tomorrow. So in essence, we've lied. We haven't been honest with what we said that we do, what we promised. And for you to say it should just be cool and that the seller should just be cool with that, that's not right. So when I started really like being like, man, that's not really right. Like, no, you need to do something. Like, you need to do something about it. It isn't just we'll close on Monday. It isn't, because they were using comments like everybody's winning. It's a win-win. You know, I'm like, the seller's not winning. Like, nobody's being impacted by this but the seller. Like, there needs to be some kind of consideration. So it was good for me as well to to ultimately be able to empathize with their particular situation. Because another thing I said to them, I was like, look, y'all aren't understanding why it's such a big deal to them is because you're not in their shoes and you're not trying to take
You're not in the place
yourself in their shoes. So whatever reason that they're pissed off about, they should be, because we're not doing what we said we was gonna do, which is close on today.
And I mean, another argument could be made is time is money as well. Like, you know, you guys want more time, so you should be able to put the consideration up for that.
Well, the one thing about negotiations, and you know, Jess knows this. As she was with me step and step as we was going through this thing, is that it's about feelings and emotions at the end of the day, right? And you have to make sure that you maintain your emotions, because if you're negotiating with somebody that's not skilled, they're gonna allow their emotions to get the best of them. And when they do that, you have leverage over the situation. So that's why it's very important to stay clear-headed. But you have to be conscious of your emotions, because they're going to say things, they're going to do things, they're going to react in ways that are going to get your emotions going too. And you gotta hold them down. And it's not easy, but you got to hold them down and remember that why you're doing it, like the goal that you're trying to accomplish. And you getting emotional is not going to help you accomplish that goal.
There's a saying that I've heard that when you get emotional in confrontation, you've already lost a battle or in an argument. Yeah.
Right. Because, and then think about it, when you start getting emotional, the blood flows from your brain and it starts going to other areas, right? Because you're either going to run or you're going to fight. So now the blood starts preparing you to do that stuff. So it takes away from your brain and you can't think. You can't really work through the issue or work through the problem. So, you know, that book really helps show a lot from that standpoint, and then getting to understand where the other party is coming from to be able to maintain some type of collaborative situation. Because once a negotiation is done, neither party should be feeling like they don't like the other party. Like nobody should be mad. Like it should all be not about you or me. It's about the problem. We're trying to work through this problem, period. The end. So that book's really helped us. I see the changes in Jess and myself as far as dealing with people and negotiating. So that's why I'm really encouraging you guys to listen to it.
There was one more thing I wanted to ask. I really like how you constantly keep going over this funnel. I don't know if you remember in our GAP meeting, I talked about how the first time is very important because you're being introduced to something, but you're really not gaining anything from it. It's only through repetition and exercise that it actually becomes more and more beneficial. So I really like that you constantly keep going through this funnel and the blue square. I just you didn't bring it up because we're not there, but I would like to know, what is the sixth skill set? Like, for example, you said the first skill set is getting leads, the fifth one is getting the client under contract as soon as possible. What would the sixth one be?
Getting the contract closed. So getting the contract that you now have closed as smooth and as fast as possible. So now, all right, so you see right there on that door, the big one?
Yes.
You see it's written right there. All six of them are written.
Yes, I do see that they're all written, but it's just like you make it easy. You make it very simple. It's like one word, but here you've kind of elaborated it. So I really like how you said.
It's right there. It's written. Like,
oh yeah, you know, like I say, I've seen that many times, and I've never noticed that blue. Okay, yeah, thanks.
We got them all. We got them all right there, man.
As smooth and as soon as possible. All right, thank you so much.
My pleasure. All right, guys. Look, y'all enjoy y'all weekend. You got that CE credit, so Jess, you gonna hook them up. I always like to end the videos just a reminder of the fact that our agents do get CE credit, and you know, this is the criteria for the CE credit. It's such an easy, simple way to, you know, not even have to think about it. So by the time you come and renew your license, all of the elective hours that you need, you'll already have them by just logging on for an hour, doing, you know, getting some training, getting some learning from your smartphone, from your iPad, from your laptop, whatever. You get this hour CE credit. You just got to be logged in, show your identification. We want to see the IDs before we go live on the broadcast on YouTube. I have to be able to see you the whole time, and you just got to stay online. And, You know, an hour later, you'll be 1 CE credit hour closer to renewing your license. All right. All right. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up, get up out of here. Let me get my music going. And then we're going to shut it down. Let's see.
Shall we begin?
No, because we are done for the day. Create your new life real estate session. Good to be back. Good to be back. Going through our Realtor Success Funnel, skill set number 5. You got the client now. It's time to get to work. And we want to work as soon as possible, getting them under contract. Capitalize on getting these CE credits, because I don't know of any other company that offers CE credits, that's able to offer CE credit as often as we are, and as easily as we are. Enjoy your weekends. We're going to start doing our CYNLs on Fridays instead of Thursdays. It just seems like it's working out better. And if you need anything, come set up a gap meeting with me. Let's get you on track so you can create that life that we know that you want. You guys have a great one. We'll talk to you soon.